What we know about cats is changing rapidly, but I wish there were some things that I knew about cats before I brought them into my life. We're talking 35 years ago, something like that. So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna give you guys the 10 things that I wish I knew about cats before I brought them into my life and my home. And before I get into any of that stuff, don't forget to give this video a like just because you want those 10 things and because you want to love the channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Let's talk about introductions. Man, I wish I would have known about that one. I mean, 30 years ago, the common wisdom was you're bringing a cat into a home with another animal, they'll work it out. Yeah, that's what I got to say to that. I mean, I did have a roommate who had a dog. I had a roommate who had a cat. Now, when it comes to introducing cats to cats, I have a whole playlist on that, so please check that out. Now, in terms of dogs, man, that was a problem. And that could turn ugly really fast, depending on the dog themselves, the size, the prey drive, et cetera, et cetera. Before you bring that cat into the home, make sure that your dog can do a reliable down stay. That is to say, you put your dog in that down stay, and if they break out of it while a cat walks across that room, get back to the training. That should be something you can count on because the first time that dog chases the cat, it's game over. And listen, if your dog can't hold a down stay, it's not their fault. It's yours. You just have to lean into training. But if you can't trust them, during that introduction process, they're on a leash. And even if they're trailing the leash around, if they make a move, you foot the leash. You can at least guarantee that there won't be a chase. Once that chase happens, it happens. You can't undo it. Meaning the cat's confidence in that moment is shot. Besides that, you want to make sure that you're doing all introductions in a step-by-step way. That whole thing about them working it out, that is straight up shooting the dice, man. It just, the amount of times that it does work versus doesn't, I wouldn't be telling you about it right now if it worked out for me. And it didn't. Do make sure that you're introducing the right way. The next part of the introductions I want you to listen to me about, again, from experience, was about food and water and litter. Resources. You want to make sure that the dog has no access to the litter box. And an easy way to do that is you have a room where the litter box is, you have a baby gate that basically clears the space underneath so the cat can walk through, but the dog cannot, because dogs love to help clean litter boxes, and that makes the litter box an unsafe place for your cat. Same thing goes for food, and it goes both ways. The first time your cat goes into a dog's dish to eat their dinner, ooh, I'm gonna help myself to that. If your dog is a resource guarder, that's going to end really badly for your cat. Same thing goes from the dog to the cat. Again, it's about the sanctity of the resource itself. So you wanna play it safe, take the cat's dish, put it off the ground, and feed them separately. So my next point piggybacks, I almost said piggy tails. So my next point piggybacks off the first one, because when you're introducing animal to animal, you do want to make sure that your cat's nails are trimmed. Don't bank on whomever you got that cat from, shelter, rescue, foster parent, somebody else who had the cat, whatever, had trimmed the claws. Because when you're doing an introduction and it's not going as well as you wanted it to, all it takes is a tiny little touch when those nails are just razor sharp that it's going to cause a problem. Let alone the fact you don't want, like on day 3 of having a cat in your life, all of a sudden they're shredding things around the house because you've allowed that to happen. And by the way, if you're learning who they are and they're learning who you are and you go for a pet too fast or pick them up too fast and they go like this to you, those things get sharp. So just like humans, you want to make sure that you are trimming those nails every 3 to 4 weeks tops. I know it doesn't feel like the funnest thing in the world to do, but the earlier you do it and the earlier you get started, the easier it becomes, and you just got to stick to it. It's just one of those things. The other thing you want to worry about is the damage it can do to the cats themselves. Those claws grow fast, and as they grow, they start to curve under. And I have seen it before, where they get so long that they actually start digging in and poking through the pads underneath their paws. I mean, that is painful. So don't think that just because they scratch things that they're blunting them by themselves. You got to help them. All right, this is a big one because it was a big one in my life, and this is all about optimum nutrition. Don't listen to just anyone. Do your due diligence. That's what I wish I would have done. Due diligence on what a cat needs to eat. If you bear in mind, a cat is an obligate carnivore. A cat needs to eat meat. The second thing is they don't get the majority of their hydration through water. They get it through their food. So if you put those two things alone together, you're going to be better off. But let me just tell you a story about the first cat who I considered my family member. That was Rabbi. And when I brought Rabbi into my house, I was told by a number of sources, including my vet at the time, oh yeah, keep him on this kibble. It's balanced. It will keep his teeth clean, which of course was a lie, and et cetera, et cetera. So Rabbi was on a dry diet, free-fed for 7 years. In his 7th year, he developed diabetes, 7 years old, and he became insulin resistant. They didn't tell me change up his diet. That may help bring down his glucose levels. Long story short, I lost him before he ever turned 8 years old. That's why I turned as militant as I am when it comes to nutrition. But I would do anything to go back before Rabbi came into my life so that I knew about nutrition. Just learn about it. Be your cat's best advocate when it comes to nutrition. Wish I would have known about that. Next up is enrichment. Common wisdom at the time, all these years ago, cats are low maintenance. That low maintenance, because they don't protest as much, because they're not like right this second my dog off to the side of the camera who's like, I need things, I want things. And because a lot of cats are not like that, we just go, okay, well, they don't need anything. Not true. Cats need enrichment. The first thing is play. I say it every day, play with your cat, but play with your cat. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I got a video about it again down in the description. The second thing, speaking of having made a lot of videos about something, catification, environmental enrichment. So important to your cat. Don't forget, cats look at a room like this. Not like us. I walk in here, I sit down, I'm looking at you. Cats get their mojo, their confidence from being able to explore every square inch of space and finding their own confident where in that space. Really optimizing your environment based on what your cat needs. Man, I wish I would have known this stuff. That's why I'm telling you right now, because I wish I would have known the vast difference in the quality of their life, both play and catification makes to that life and an extension to yours. So again, to piggyback on something, piggy tail, piggy bank, piggyback, talking about catification and environmental enrichment, now we talk about what happens if you don't. It's not just about enriching your cat's life, it's about protecting them and protecting the home itself. That is cat-proofing your house. So let me tell you a story. Again, there is not a single thing I'm going to tell you today that I haven't fallen victim to myself. And speaking of falling victim to, Valoria, my beautiful, may she rest in peace, died when she was 26 years old, would have died a lot sooner if it weren't for some quick thinking on the part of my good friend at the time who was a vet and the vets who cared for her. Because I came home one time, at that point she's only about 10 years old, and I come home within, I'm not kidding you, 30 seconds of me coming home, suddenly she's foaming at the mouth and she's hurling herself against the walls. Like to the point where I was afraid she was gonna hurt herself from that, and just white foam pouring out of her mouth. And I scoop her up and I run her to the vet. And for a while there, I was convinced that it was because she got into something under the sink. She had gotten into some poison under the sink. I'm then leaving her at the emergency room to run back to the house because my other cat at the time, Benny, was still in the house. And is he poisoning himself? Now, it didn't actually turn out that was the case. It turned out to be a whole other thing. But the fact is, it could have happened because I had not cat-proofed my house. And so to that end, the first thing that you remember is to put child locks on everything. Remember, cats are like toddlers that can reach the ceiling. So everything, floor to ceiling, you want to make sure is kid-proofed and cat-proof to that end. They will get into whatever you don't want them to get into, medicine or otherwise. Don't forget, got a video all about cat-proofing. The second thing, catification principle number 2, block off the unders. Make sure that no matter what it is, the under of your bed, coffee tables, whatever your cat's gonna get under that you can't reach to, anywhere where you can't get to, that's a problem. God forbid there's an emergency. You gotta get out of the house, you gotta get the family out of the house like that. Good luck when it comes to the place that they will go when they're the most scared, which is hidden. Now look, I understand that a lot, and the vast majority of cats that come into your life just come into your life. Whether, you have a friend that was moving or they just showed up on your front step and you're like, okay, cat, you have a home. This is if you have the option. If you get that chance to plan, researching specifically vets and pet sitters, making sure that you have a deep bench behind you before you ever start. And it's not just because there's a vet down the street but because they're down the street, but you don't know about the quality. And this is not bad-mouthing veterinarians. This is bad-mouthing anybody just going to them because of convenience, let alone if it's somebody you trust your animal's life to. So the best thing that you can do is solicit as many opinions from friends and family members who have animals in your general area, and just go with that first, and then research. Same thing goes for pet sitters. And the reason I really stress pet sitters is because if you are called out of town, if there's an emergency out of town somewhere, if you can't be in the home for some reason, you wouldn't want to just trust that you can put them into boarding or something like that. You do want to make sure that you have somebody who is bonded, insured, that friends can vouch for. They're going to be in your house. They're going to be in your life. And I really, really advocate for pet sitters. Check out my vacation video. It talks all about that. But those two things, veterinarians, pet sitters, man, that would be a great thing to know before you bring a cat into the home. Now, at this point, I will make the caveat that when I first brought a cat into my life, this idea was just a glimmer in somebody's eye at the time, but now it's not, and it is really important, and that is pet insurance. If you haven't considered pet insurance for your cat, do more than consider it. In my opinion, do it. Things happen, emergencies happen, unforeseen things happen, and if you're not prepared, those bills are really high. I am not trying to scare you away from having a cat in your life. I'm just saying there's an easy way to prepare for it. Now, here's the other thing I would tell you to do. Number one, shop around, because different plans offer different things in terms of what the premiums are, what the deductibles are, and what types of problems they will address and to what extent. So it is a real investment into your cat's health and well-being over the long haul, and your wallet at the same time. As I go down this list, I keep finding myself saying, well, this is really important. They're all really important. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a top 10 list. This is really important, everybody. And that's having an emergency plan. Have yourself a fire drill. This is what I will do if I'm forced out of the house really quickly. And that means that you're not relying on adrenaline, you're relying on a game plan. You're gonna have a go bag with all kinds of things in that go bag. And to go along with that, it is making sure that your cat is used to the carrier. You don't just break it out in case of emergency. You make them feel like it's their safe place to begin with, so they don't panic the second they see it. You know what I wish I would have known before I brought a cat into my life? And I learned really quickly afterwards, and it really was a lifesaver for me, which was there's a huge community of people who love their cats, and they have amazing advice. And even if there's one piece of advice that's not so great, but you can always say, well, there's 10 other people who say differently. You can form a great opinion about any topic based on the community around you. So plug into that community. There are tons of support groups. There are tons of online communities, and there are people in your neighborhood, as I was saying before. I will give you one example. The first time that I noticed one of my cats, and that was Benny, I kept thinking he had a hairball, and he just had this sound. He was making this coughing sound, wasn't bringing anything out. I actually went on the Google machine, found a video right off the bat, a cat doing the exact same thing. That led me to this wonderful website about cat asthma, which led me to a support community about cat asthma. So by the time I went to the vet, I knew what I was looking at. I wasn't relying on one opinion, and albeit an amazingly educated opinion about what my cat was going through. I had already gotten support about it. And if it happens after a diagnosis, believe me, nothing feels better than knowing that so many people have gone through what you've gone through, and that community is more than happy to give you advice based on, man, I wish I would have known that. And finally, and I really hope, by the way, that I have not scared you off from bringing a cat into your life. I'm just going to say that right now. The investment that I'm talking about, those 10 things, and I'm about to get to the 10th, are so valuable. And once you do them, you know them. You pass them on to others, and you can feel secure in this lifetime together, So I hope didn't scare you. Anyway, number 10, which is not scary, but fascinating. And that is, I wish I would have known about cat with a capital C. That is, I wish I would have known the history of cats, the evolution of cats, because like I was saying about their nutrition, their optimal nutrition, it's based on the fact that their ancestor is alive and kicking in every cat on this planet. What I'm saying is every little bit of their life, whether it is play, whether it is catification or optimal nutrition, doesn't matter, is informed by the history of cats. It is a fascinating journey, and hopefully I am now prompting you to take that journey because it'll just increase your appreciation. And by the way, the stuff that you go, man, I wish my cat wouldn't do that. Now you understand why things like scratching have to happen because of who I call the raw cat, that ancestor. And now you just got to figure out what to do about your cat scratching. What is that? Yes, there's a video on that. So if you want to continue your education, don't forget all of the videos that are in the description below and the ones that are flashing up around my head, which is where you should go next because you're like, oh my God, I love my cat and I want to do what's best for them. And until next time, when you do even more good things, and hopefully me too, light, love, and mojo to you guys.
Meow.